All right. So it's been a minute since I've done one of these because I was sick again, which was very annoying and unfortunate. But let's just hope that I'm gonna be, I'm feeling a bit better, and let's just hope that it's gonna stay that way. But enough of that. This is a enough of my physical health. This is a mental health channel after all. Um, Today I heard something outside, creeped me out, but hopefully, no one is listening to my ramblings. Anyway, so today I wanted to talk about time. I know, very broad topic, and there's obviously a lot we can go into, but I want to talk about the notion that you have the feeling like you're kind of running out of time. Which, in my case, you might look at me and think, wait, you're like still young as fuck, bro. Like, why would you feel like that? Which is, I guess, in a sense, true. But yeah, I feel, or let's put it that way. When I was a child, I always felt like time was my ally, right? I always felt, or I was always thinking, okay, I'm happy that time passes because I'm gonna get older. I can finally do more stuff. Or Christmas and birthdays and stuff. Those were like the um, things I would look forward to basically every week. Like back then, Christmas and holidays, school holidays. That was like all my mind was occupied with, basically. To the point where, like, you know, when like holiday ended and stuff, I was for a few days I was very down because I was like, fuck, man, I gotta go back to school and whatever. Obviously, in hindsight, a little bit silly, maybe not. I don't know. It sounds kind of silly to me because even in a sense, I think that school was, especially like middle school and stuff, was a great time. But I guess back then I didn't really think about it that way. Or maybe it's just nostalgia talking of me now. But yeah, the point is, when I was younger, I always thought that, time passing is a good thing because that means um, cool stuff will come my way. And that's basically the notion I had until I was, I don't know, maybe like 15 or something. Mm. At which point it kind of started to change. And suddenly, getting older, um, yeah, it's obviously normal that you feel less and less like birthdays and stuff is like this, crazy event and stuff. Obviously, as you get older, it always loses some of the magic. But for me, um, it's not just that, but also um, I feel as if um, when you're like 15, 16, and that kind of stuff, even though you're still very young, and with every year there will be like, also good things coming your way theoretically, because if you're 16 in Germany, at least you can drink beer. I like how that's my definition of a good thing, being able to buy beer. But yes, and when you're 18, you can buy like spirits and hard stuff and that kind of stuff. And when you're 21, I guess then you can drink, or you can go on a holiday in America and drink there as well, or something like that. I don't know, fucking know. But after that point, um, like I don't know what like the all the ages of like doing stuff are in most countries, but by the time you're like 21 or 22 or 3, it's like there at that point you're just getting older. It's not no longer a point of, oh, when you're this age, then there's like something other cool, like another cool thing coming for you or whatever. No, at that point, when you're like again like 20 plus, you just start to get older, right? And yeah, since I'm like 16 or whatever, it felt more like, rather than me looking in the direction of the future and thinking, oh yes, I'm happy that this is coming my way, it more so feels like I'm kind of time is kind of slipping out of my hand, right? That I no longer really feel in control of how my time passes. And I know it's kind of a generic thing to say, but really, when I was younger, time passed so slowly, and it always felt like, for example, school. I always thought like, what the fuck, man? I have like 8 years left in school or whatever. That is like a lifetime, bro. Like that shit will just never end. I'm just gonna be stuck here forever, you know. And now, thinking back, school is already years back, and it's crazy to think that that's really what I thought back then. That school is never gonna end. Which, I mean, to be fair, back then it really seemed like forever, right? But that's kind of the point. Now, like when I think about the years I've spent after school, like it feels like time is on a fucking speed pedal and keeps accelerating more and more. And like this year, oh my god, bro, it's already fucking October, and it gives me existential dread that this year is almost over again. And when I think back about it, there is just nothing. Like the last 3 years basically is just nothing. I can't really think of anything that happened. Like what is going on? Um, and again, I feel like after 15, 16, this kind of started to happen, this process, gradually. But now, it's just, yeah, much worse than back then, you know? Um, and like I said, you might think like, oh, but you're still young, you know, like I mean, I guess, but the thing is, when I was 18, for example, right? People would say, okay, you're 18, you're still so young, like you have your entire life in front of you. Like, don't be anxious or don't feel like dread about it that you're 18, bro. You like your life is just already starting, right? And then it's like 18, all right. Then I'm turned 19. Then it's like, oh right, wait, what the fuck? Like this last year spent was like over in no time, and then it's like, well, you're still 19, you know, you're still so young, you're basically a toddler, like, and then you turn 20, and then you turn 21 and 22, and it's like it just keeps repeating and repeating and repeating, and it's like, I mean, okay, you know, when you're 18, then it's like, oh, you're still a child. If you're 20, then it's, oh, you're still a child. If you're 22, oh, you're still a child, and you know, but at some point, you know, maybe when you're like 25, 26, 27, you know, then some people will probably start to say like, oh, you know, you're still young. I mean, you know, if you're like 27, you're not, you know, you're not a child anymore, but you're still young, you know, and that's like, you know, to me it's like, well, but it's, I mean, I guess so. 27 is still young, but when I think about it that way, that 27 is 10 years older than 17, you know, that's what really gets me. That it's like, I feel like age between the age of 10 and 15, for example, I feel like I've changed the most in my entire life. I feel like from 10 to 15, even though when I was 15, I still did like really dumb shit, but I feel like in these 5 years, I genuinely like learned a lot about myself, about other people, about the world, and you know, my perception really changed. But since then, and 15 was a fucking while ago, right? Um, but since then, like from age 15 to 20, for example, it didn't feel like the same kind of growth or development. Maybe a little bit, but not that much. And and now from 20 to 25, you know, it feels like less and less that I'm making like any like substantial progress with myself, you know, and you know that's what really gets me. That's like uh, I just feel it just feels really really cheap to me to just say like, oh, but you're still young, and just be alright with it. But like, I don't want to be alright with it. I don't want to be alright with the fact that time is passing so fucking fast, and year after year keeps passing, and before long I will look back and think like, holy fucking shit, I'm 30 now or something, right? And by that point, it will only keep getting worse, probably, right? Like old people, quote unquote, like people who are like 60 or whatever. I guess you can consider that old, like my father's age or whatever. Will tell you like from like 30 onwards or something. Like time will only pass faster and faster, and to me at least, in the moment, that really feels like it's the truth. Because for me, time is keeps getting, like I said, like it's accelerating. It keeps just getting faster and faster. Um. So yeah, I'm just not gonna be. I should just not be bothered by it. It's just what people essentially tell me. But like, how long should I keep doing that? Like until I'm fucking 80, and then it's like, oh well, and I guess you're old now. Have fun dying. Goodbye. And then it's like, oh, I mean, what the fuck? Like, what did I even do all these years? Um. But yeah, that's kind of the gist of it. I wanted to say something, but I'm trying to remember. Um. So yeah, basically, yeah, that's what I wanted to say. So basically, uh, the thing is also, I feel like people get less and less ambitious as they age. Um, I've seen like, um, what was it? Casually Explained or something, like this YouTuber who does like, um, explains things with like stickman characters or something like that. Um, and he made the joke like, oh, he like from like age, I don't know, age 23 to like 31 or something. That's when people have like ambitions and stuff, and afterwards they just kind of give up. And it sounds harsh, but I genuinely think there's some truth to that, because you know I am in, like I just explained, I am at least in a stage where I'm aware of this problem or whatever. Or I am aware that time passes very fast for me, and that makes me very uncomfortable. But I feel like past a certain, or like I at least have like some sort of ambition left in me. To be fair, it's getting less in some sense, but I still have some ambition left in me to like change something about that, right? But I feel like when you look at people who are like in their 40s and stuff, and 40s, 50s and stuff, um, it just seems like they have like less and less ambitions in life. Like I'm thinking, oh fuck, like I have this problem, time is running out of my hands, I need to do something about it. Now, whether I actually do something about it or not, that's like a different discussion, but I at least feel the urgency in my situation to some point. But I feel like at some point people just stop caring. Like, for example, I talked a lot about how I feel that not being special, I guess, really fucks me up, to think that I'm just a normal guy with a normal fucking life, and I'm gonna die a normal death, and everything is so normal and boring and shit. Um, and at, I'm saying these things at the very least, or I'm visualizing the problem at least. But again, like, how many people live these kind of lives and actually live like 40, 50, 60? Like, I am, I guess, still, coming back to the whole age thing, I'm at least still young. That doesn't mean that I'm gonna change something about it, probably not. Because, right, that's the problem, that I'm probably not gonna be able to change something about it because I'm just normal as fuck. But when you're like 40, 50 or stuff, like, and you just see yourself starting to get older and older, which I guess in a sense is also a privilege that you can even get to that age. People die at 20 or whatever. But the point being is, like, these kind of people they seem like I don't know, like, is it content? Some of them maybe, and like, not saying there's any harm in being content with a normal life. That is essentially what sooner or later I hope that I can at least achieve. Like, if I'm not going to be special, then at least be content with what you have, at least, right? That's better than nothing, or better than being unsatisfied and chasing a dream that you will never reach. Um, but nevertheless, there are also, I feel like, a lot of people who just kind of gave up, like maybe people like me who had the dreams in their 20s and who at least try to do something, whatever it is, maybe like some sort of ambition, maybe again, like, I don't know, like start a band or whatever, or learn new stuff essentially and try things, right? Um, but I feel like the older you get, like the less and less people actually try to do something like that. Like most people in their 40s and 50s, they just, they they work the fucking job, they get back home, and that's it basically. Like maybe they do some stuff with like their wife and kids, um, and yeah, that's it. Like for some people, I guess it doesn't sound like a bad thing at all, right? I mean, it could be much worse, obviously. Um, but I'm just thinking like, what about like your dreams, or like no, that sounds cheesy, but like seriously, like how many, or like I feel as if, again, like I said, people at a certain age just have like less and less interests. For example, I feel like it's so much more common to see like ambitious, again, 20 30 year olds maybe, but by the time they're like 40 50, like they just seem to like give up in a way, right? And it just seems weird to me that like, is no one questioning this? Is no one finding this weird that people just at some point think like, well, I guess I'm just gonna die now. Like, what the fuck? Like, is it really that normal to, yeah, live this kind of life without any ambition? Like, what's the point if you don't have any ambition? Um, like, to kind of maybe visualize it a bit more, my cloudy thoughts. For example, let's say learning a language, right? Generally considered to be a useful skill, a good skill, and whatnot. And I'm still trying to learn languages, right? But how many people in their like 40s and 50s, for example, do you know that actively try to learn a language? You know, I feel as if it's not that many, or barely anyone. Maybe it could just be my, you know, I'm sorry, I'm saying again a lot, but that's what it is. Um, like sample bias or something, that just the people, or the older people that I know, don't do it. But I feel like people acquire languages in their like teens and 20s, and obviously when they're a child, but afterwards I feel like they don't really do that anymore, which is, of course, there's also the fact that you just learn slower when you are older than when you are younger, right? That's common knowledge. But nevertheless, that doesn't explain to me why you would, even considering that, that doesn't mean that you're unable to learn a language after 40 or whatever. Um, Maybe you are not quite as efficiently, but you also have, over the years at least, in theory, a lot more years to make up for that, right? Like, let's say a 20-year-old learns much first, or a 10-year-old learns a language much faster than a 40-year-old. But if that 40-year-old studies for like, let's say, 20 fucking years, then he's still probably gonna be pretty fucking good, maybe not fluent level, but still pretty fucking good. But how many people actually try to acquire a new language after like the age of 25 even? So that's something that kind of I don't really get. Um, yeah, maybe I actually know a counterexample to that, but nevertheless, I feel like my general sentiment, the general point still stands. That yeah, uh, maybe it, yeah. Do people just give up at a certain point? Do they just resign and think, oh, I guess I'm, um, or let's say, this is gonna be such a fucking dumb example, right? But for example, people who, um, are into like stocks or like crypto or some shit, right? Like we all hate crypto bros. I get it, but even though they're like dumb and a lot of them do not become like fucking Warren Buffett or whatever. They at least have like the spirit of like, oh, like I am gonna be the one who is gonna like crack the code and become a stock market something broker and make a lot of money, right? But how many people in their 40s, for example, still are still on that on that grind, basically, right? To how many people in their 40s, for example, try to get a, or maybe that's also just my conception, but I feel like if you're 40 or 50 and you have no like, or you have like your job, then that's kind of your thing, right? And at that point, it seems like people think like, oh, if I'm already doing this job, why would I try something else? Like if your job is to, I don't know, like if you're a construction worker at 50, then the chances of you suddenly starting to get like into like stocks or whatever and trying to make a living off of that are, I feel, very low, right? Which in some case you might say, oh, that's probably for the better, but it's not really about like fucking stocks or crypto or whatever. The point is just that if you're 50 years old, right, you could still, let's say, let's say you have like you're pretty healthy and you live to like 85 or something. If you're 50 years old and you put in 20 years of work, by the time you're 70, you could be rich, or like in theory, like obviously, that doesn't necessarily equate, but the point is, if you really put in the work into something, then by the time you're 70, you could have again acquired like a cool skill or do something like really substantial, because again, 20 years, obviously you have a lot of stuff to look out for when you're older, but that's still a lot of time and you can probably still do something in that amount of time. But I feel, and again, maybe that's just how I feel about it. I'm not backing this up. This is just completely anecdotally, obviously. But I feel like not a lot of people are willing to try anything at that point. And yeah, maybe that's just your way of accepting that, you are just normal. And maybe that's how I will accept that I'm normal at some point too. Maybe. But yeah, let's see if I can, at least until then, until all my spirits, all my hopes and whatever have left me, if I can at least until then try to do something about it, right? That's, I guess, what I have to do. So, yeah, let's see how things go or something. I don't know. I wanted to say something wise and somewhat optimistic in the end, but I horribly failed. So, yeah, that's gonna be it. What is your opinion about that? Do you have an opinion about that? No? Okay. Well, yeah, that's it. Thanks.